Hello, friends. Welcome to another episode of HR to CHRO. And today we have Dr. Brilliant with us. He started his career in teaching, then he was into system analysis, and then this was CMS, AppTech, WinTech, Cybertech. He was into system analysis, and then he joined Kia. Then he was in HR. Then he was at BNB Paribas, Chrysler, Arshia, and he was also at SPGen handling the HR department, and currently he is Chief People Officer at TimesPro. So thank you, Dr. Brilliant. Thanks for giving us time. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Amit, and thank you, Kushalta, for having me over.
So this is one key differentiator that I have seen in many of the CHROs and CPOs, Dr. Brilliant, that they did not start their career directly from HR.
Yeah.
So many of them, some of them, they started their career in sales, some in business development, some in operations, and like you, teaching and then system analysis. So why did you join HR? Why HR?
Good question, Amit, and it's a long answer, but I'll make it very simple and crisp. I did not choose HR. I would like to think that the human element in the business when I was working on something chose me. It's like मैंने तुम्हें चुन लिया अब तू भी मुझे चुन. That was the kind of engagement that happened. With an engineering background, I'm sure you would know in the good old days where placements were not really something which colleges would drive. So we had to literally go door to door checking if there are vacancies. There were no jobs. And I had to start my career as a technical trainer. I started off with CMS computers. And those days, I mean, I hated teaching. I did not want to get into teaching. But if there's nothing else, what better way to not just upskill yourself, but also stay current to what's happening? I started off my journey with CMS, then went on to AppTech. And as I progressed, I realized that there's so much to do and computers were gaining a lot of ground. So I did my post graduation in computers engineering. I was studying and I was working. And that's when I realized, okay, this is an interesting area. I should probably build my career in computer science as a software developer. So almost about 5 years I spent as a software developer with Cybertech Systems and Software Limited. And during that time, the roles kept changing. I started off with the basic, went on to become a systems analyst and a business analyst. There were pre-sales meetings where I would be a part of. And the last 4 or 5 projects that I was managing with the team, it was all related to human resources, right from resource management to attendance to leave management to what we know today as 360-degree appraisals. And I started interacting with the HR team very closely, and I realized, oh wow, there's so much that I can do, and I can know about people and how they impact the project. So I said, why not get myself skilled in HR? So I went on to take up my course in human resource management, and that's how the journey started. My official break in HR started with Infrasoft, which is now Kia.ai, where I transitioned into HR because I could clearly see that there was a huge gap between what the business was looking for and what the people element or what we call as the human soul would really bring in. And I wanted to be the architect who can actually build. While yes, I would have been a technical architect or a chief technical officer today. I ended up being a chief people officer because I think honestly, based on the interactions, I realized HR is that one function where you can apply behavioral sciences to drive business performance, and it is directly hitting the profitability of the organization. And I think that's something which you and Kushalta also do very clearly in terms of transforming the behaviors which can result into measurable metrics. And when I started working in HR, it was not easy. It's very difficult, right? Someone from non-HR, while you mentioned at the start that many people have come from non-HR background, but if you move companies and you start your journey as technically a trainee after coming with 6 to 7 years of experience, you still feel out of place. But that's been one amazing journey, and I think that's what has brought me to HR. And as they say, go behind what appeals to you, and maybe you will soon find your purpose. So I think I've probably found my purpose by being in the human resource function today.
Very nice, very nice. And see, generally it is said that only 0.5% people they reach the CXO level. Now you mentioned that there is a gap between, or there was a gap that time between what business was looking for and what HR was engaged in. And you were able to bridge that gap by joining HR because you come from the business side also. So, is that a stepping stone to success to know more about business? And once you know that, then it hastens your process of reaching the CXO level in HR. Does it help?
Absolutely. And Amit, I would be very candid on that irrespective of whether you're in HR or any function, unless you know the business, you cannot be successful. And to reach a level at a CXO or even at a VP level within any organization, you need to understand the soul of the organization. While you understand people, that's not enough. I always keep saying this, there are three P's that you need to be remembering. One is people, second is the process, and the third and the most important P is the purpose. If you understand the purpose, if you understand what needs to be done, then finding the balance between people versus process becomes easy. Otherwise, sorry to say that, but it's cliche to say that HR should always think about people. HR should do only things which are aligned to this. I would slightly disagree there. We need to create a right kind of a balance. The organization exists for a purpose, and if you're not driving that purpose effectively, which could be profitability, anything, it can be anything that the organization sets forth to, I think you're missing the bus. By just focusing only on the people element, we may not really achieve what we want to. True success comes in when you find the true, in engineering parlance, if you draw a Venn diagram, people, process, and purpose, if you find that right mix, that spot, that's where magic happens. And then, yes, nothing can stop success coming to you.
Very nice. So we'll come back to this, the purpose and the business side of it. But what are the other secrets of success which have helped you reach this level, Dr. Bill?
So I think I'll speak for myself, and I think it can probably resonate with a lot of people who are in the stage and phase that I was when I started my journey. I was always hungry. You know, one thing which I realized is I cannot stay uh, vacant without work. I always needed to be busy, but with meaningful work. A
Mhm.
routine actually started boring me, and I would always say, "Kahan aa gaye hum?" I mean, if you are hired for something, you should be there. I always used to be restless, and I would like to quote this specific instance. I was with Cybertech when I joined. We were hired in bulk. We were about, I think, 50 odd people who were hired across teams, and we were put onto projects. One day, 2 days, 3 days, a week, we were not doing anything. We were given a good, best of the desktop that was available at that point of time. We had a good workplace. Everything was good. We had fun. But then after a week, I started realizing that my mind is going somewhere else. So I actually wrote a letter to the vice president that time saying that you hired me and I am sitting vacant for the last 5 days. Can you tell me what can I do so that I can stay busy? And people were laughing at me because those days we still did not have an official email ID created. It takes about 7 to 8 days to get it done. And I passed on to the EA of the VP. And the VP then called me and said, "अरे तो ये काम करने का बहुत शौक है ना, चल आज से शुरू करते." So what I realized is it's important to have that kind of a hunger. It seems good that you don't have work, you feel relaxed, but true, I would say satisfaction comes in for a professional when you have that quest for working. And when you work, you find a problem, you try to fix it. So what happens is it keeps on repeating. PDCA, if you remember the software life cycle, plan, do, check, and act. You do something, you fail, it's okay, you come back. But what's important is to stay busy, and meaningful work is critical. And I realized that no one will help us. Uh, because I had no support during college for placements, I realized if I have to make an impact, I need to do it myself. So those days I had heard a very powerful couplet which said, "खुद ही को कर बुलंद इतना कि हर बुलंदी से पहले खुदा तुझसे पूछे बता तेरी रजा क्या है." So which meant that you need to bring that self mastery in, make it as a part of your commitment that no matter what happens, you need to go for something new. You need to stay updated. And Stephen Covey's 7 habit also talks about that, sharpening the saw. Unless you do that, you will not go anything. So I think the secret success is very simple. In the Indian parlance, what we call as jugaad, combined with the rigor to drive outcomes. See, everything needs to be quick and dirty. My eyes remember my boss who always used to say, we need this quick and dirty. And when we did dirty work, he would say, अरे dirty का मतलब dirty नहीं होता. Dirty का मतलब ऐसा है कि वो थोड़ा सा पैच करके हम उसको use कर ले. Which really meant that we had to stretch at times, we had to stride, but we were never resting. We were never satisfied with the so-called mediocre. Our boss expected the best from us. We started expecting the best and we started proactively focusing on it. But most critical element of this was, I realized if you have to have success in your life, you need to have fun when you're working. And I'll tell you, it's okay to laugh. It's okay to make fun of yourself more than anything else. Make light of a situation because we are all in stress. But at the same time, make sure that you have the foundation of accountability that drives outcome for you. It doesn't mean that you can keep on joking and not work and give outcomes for the organization. I am someone who's believed from within that if you have fun, you will not only learn, but you will also grow. So conversations have started taking place as fun conversations. People feel that, are very good person to talk to. Chalo thoda has lete hain, thoda stress kam ho jata hai. I remember an incident, one of my ex CEOs, in one of this board meetings when we were sitting and everything was so tense, he looked at me and said, Brilliant, ek joke marna yaar, bahut stress aa gaya hai. So, that also makes you feel a sense of pride saying that, yeah, people understand that you believe in having fun. So my mantra is very simple. Give it all it takes to achieve what you want to. Be thirsty, be hungry. There is nothing that can stop you, but have fun all the while. If you're not having fun, you will stress yourself out.
Very nice. Very nice. I can see the examples that you are giving and the shero shairi. That you're a good person to be around to keep the atmosphere light.
It's become a part of my life now. Everywhere I try to find ways and means to, just lighten up the mood. That's it.
And is it one of the reasons why you are so young looking also?
Thanks for that.
Maybe because if you are happy, then you obviously look young. So
True, true,
good,
true.
good, good. So that's a very good message for our viewers and listeners that you have to stay happy, you have to have fun. Very good. So, see, staying hungry, is it also related to, or can it be related to individual purpose? Like we talked about the balance between people, process, and purpose in the organization. The individual purpose also could be that you always stay hungry.
Yes, absolutely. See, again, we all need to understand that all said and done, it's all about us. And I was just reading through some of the WhatsApp forwards. Today, someone we know passed away at a very young age of 53. And everyone said that, while we all know that we don't know what will happen next, we forget to live life. We forget to focus on everything that's external and not think about us as human beings. So I think it all starts with what you need as an individual. Start with that. Uh, sometimes it's hard, but go back to history, go back everywhere. Even if you are in a situation, let's say, in an aeroplane, the stewardess always would tell you that put your mask first before helping others. What clearly underlines this fact is यात्री अपनी जान की जिम्मेदारी खुद ले ले. So if your individual purpose is not aligned to the business purpose, I think it will not work out ever. Once, as I said, I never thought in my wildest dreams that I'll be in HR. I always wanted to be a CTO, and again, just an offsite taking you somewhere else. Somewhere in August 2003, I had just for the sake of passion clicked some photographs, and I was face of the week in Times of India's Dombili Kalyan Plus edition, and I thought, okay, I can become a model. That was there, and there, if you read what it was written is, my dream is to become a chief technical officer of a large organization. That was 2003. Who knew by 2005 things would change in a span of just 2 years? Because I started realizing that my purpose, my liking was more aligned towards the behavioral element of people, bridging that gap between what business needs. And I think that's worked very well. And for everyone, I would say, Start focusing on you and your individual purpose, and then align it with the larger purpose. If there is a misalignment, it will never work, and you will start feeling that stress automatically. So it starts with you.
Very nice, Dr. Brilliant. And like you said that, but it must have been tricky also, no? Like you yourself said, changing direction midway. So going in one direction where you can see yourself becoming a CTO, and in fact, it's very good because as a CTO, nothing against CTOs, but the number of people, employees, team members you can touch as a CPO would be much higher than as a CTO. So more people are benefiting with your cool demeanor, so as to say. But it must have been tough, like you yourself said that starting as a trainee.
Yeah.
So apart from the lessons or the secrets of success, one very important secret is not afraid of fear of failure, not having that letting go of fear of failure and taking risks. So something on that, Dr. Brahim.
So, my father always used to say, "Why don't you try it? Right? Why don't you try it?" It's very simple. Unless and until you try something, you will never know whether you're made for it or not. So taking that risk, and it makes me very nostalgic, and there are goosebumps as I talk this. When I realized that I wanted to shift to HR, I had recalled my H1B visa, which was in
Oh,
processing.
oh.
Okay. And I remember my boss, Giri
Between that
Giridhar,
time, in
that
that time, going to America or abroad was a
that
very big
was
dream.
uh,
Yeah,
that was like the big dream for every Indian. And
correct.
it was in process, right? I recalled my passport, and my boss called from the US. He said, "Brilliant, what happened?" And I just said that, somewhere I feel I'm not, finding the kind of engagement with this, and I feel I want to explore. So he said something very, very important, and he said, "I tried to move your cheese, but you found cheese somewhere else." And that has stayed with me, because sometimes what happens is, if you keep on getting the same things, if you keep on doing the same things, you will get the same kind of output. And as you rightly said, if I was restricted to being in the technical field, probably the number of lives that I would have touched, the kind of things that I could have got to explore would have been limited. And yes, the fear of failure, the fear of acceptance, most important, Amit, because when you come from a background which is not from HR, and you are almost at par with someone who spent about 6 years in HR, people will start looking down upon you, saying that isko kya pata hoga yaar, ye kya hi kar liya. So
Oh,
you have to prove yourself, and that's where I would say a lot of persistence, a lot of resilience, and a lot of patience is required. Unless you have that mindset, it is all a game of mind. People will push you, you will feel yourself in the corner of a wall at times. But a wise person had said once, if you feel you're cornered, instead of pushing back, climb up the wall. So I did that, and that's probably one of the reasons why I'm talking to you as a chief people officer and not as a chief technical officer.
correct, correct. And it's see, people generally see the success, but they don't see the hardships or the risks or the
True.
bad times which a person has gone through. And it is
Yeah,
important for people like you, success stories like you, to share that so that it gives courage, belief to other people also who might be planning to take the same risk. So very
absolutely,
nice,
absolutely.
very nice
And
of you.
talking of failures, I remember when we were in that midst of working for a project for a client in US. Me and my friend Rajesh Patil, we were actually dependent on railway trains to reach home. And
Mhm.
one fine day, uh, we extended the work hour and reached the station so late that the last train had gone.
Oh,
And I remember standing with hawkers trying to have a morsel of food. And we were having this conversation, and one thing that Rajesh said stuck with me. He said that, "Brilliant, हम लोगों ने ना इतना कुछ कर लिया है और इतना कुछ कर सकते हैं कि हम कभी जिंदगी में भूखा नहीं सोएंगे." And that mindset of saying that we will do anything that it takes away the fear of failure. It doesn't matter.
correct, correct, correct. I think, and that is why people who reach the CXO level somewhere are not afraid of taking risks, and somewhere they have this self belief. See, I was reading somewhere that 90% of the people lack this sense of self belief, and that is why they are afraid of taking risks.
True, true,
So,
absolutely true.
because you were working so hard that you were willing to even work without sleep or stay at work so late that. So that is what gives anybody a confidence to take on risks. Very nice. All right. So see, we talked about purpose, and we also talked about you talked about profitability and understanding the business side of it. Now, now, how does a young HR professional who has come straight from college, let's say, and he or she is now handling some maybe talent acquisition or comp and benefit or something, and he or she has played full with the KRAs which he or she has to deliver. How can that person know more about business? How should he or she go about it?
So I think I'll take it from a different lens. Unfortunately, what happens is whether it is talent acquisition, whether it's learning and development, business partnering, any element of HR, we always treat ourselves as a support function. I think that mindset needs to go. You need to believe that you are a business enabler. And I'm not saying that you are a business in itself, but you're a business enabler. Without you, probably the business will not reach to the level that it can. My suggestion is, while today we talk a lot about AI is something which is needed. AI can help you understand a lot, but have conversations with business. Know the business inside out. As uh, I think who had said this? Someone had said, I can't recollect his name. Suddenly, I've gone blank. He said, start with the why,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
And that that is the essence. Why is the business doing what it is doing?
Correct.
We know what needs to be done. We know how it is to be done. We know when it is to be done. But unless we understand the why, we will keep leaning कि इधर जाऊं या उधर जाऊं क्या करूं. वो बोलते हैं ना पिद्दी का लोटा. You will just keep moving. But if you really want to make a career, and again, I'm not talking about a job. If you really want to make a career, start with understanding the business.
Hmm.
I have had business conversations. I have been a part of P&L conversations, and you cannot manage people alone without understanding the business. See, we always believe that letting go of people is the toughest. But you need to understand when you are in a business context, the purpose is the one that drives. And when we talk of people, when we talk of process, there is also one more P, which is profitability. And the other P is productivity. Now, if there is a imbalance between them, you will have to take tough decisions. I know people get emotional saying, yeah, I had to let go of this person, but you gave them a chance. That's the people element. That's the empathy that you bring in. But how long can you be empathetic? A business cannot operate on empathy alone. They will need sympathy as well, right? Empathy करते कुछ नहीं होने वाला.
Correct.
So if you know the why of the business, then it's easier for you to take decisions and not feel bad about it. That's the bottom line. Many a times we take actions and we say, यार काश मैं कुछ कर सकता या कर सकती या कर सकते. But understand, this is business. वो बोलते हैं ना, जैसा भी है धंधा है.
Correct.
जो भी करना है वो धंधे के लिए करना है. So if you invest that time more than trying to worry about your compensation, your job description, or who I will report to, understand what the business does. You will find value, and people will start calling you for uh, meetings, for reviews, because they know that you are the one person they can rely on. So this is something which has worked for me. I push myself in. I ask them, मेरे को भी मीटिंग में ले लो यार. Initially you had to ask,
Okay.
and then slowly you are pulled.
Hmm. 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 Very nice. So generally, sometimes when you ask a youngster, why do you want to join HR? So the answer may be that because I am good with people and
Good with
like,
people.
but like you rightly said, see, it has to be driven along with people, the process, the purpose, the profitability, the productivity, and unless
Absolutely,
the balance is there, what will you do with only people? Then you become join an NGO,
exactly.
right?
The purpose has to be very clear. And as you rightly said, see, if I only want to focus on making lives of people better, I better be a part of a social cause rather than join a for-profit organization.
Correct. So, see, I want to talk about how can a young HR professional manage his or her time or not be afraid of going and having those conversations with the business people, and how should he or she plan his or her career, let's say for the next 2 years, for the next 5 years. But before that, like you also mentioned that fear of failure, letting go of fear of failure. And like I said, that many people they reach the CXO level because they are able to let go of that fear of failure and that self belief. So some examples which if you could share in your career, Dr. Brilliant, which have helped you when you took risks and it benefited you, or sometimes maybe even a failure also.
Absolutely. See, there are many instances, but for the young people or the young lions and lionesses who want to enter this field, I go back to what I said. HR is not a support function, it's an enabler. So if I were to look at it, at core, you need to be human. You may be a process driven person, you may come from tech background. People always used to assume that I am a nerd, right? Because I used to be working only in technology, but there is a human side to it. And today when we have AI, let AI not become your master, you should become a master of AI. So once you do that, you understand how you can get insights from whatever is available. In terms of making a path for yourself, I would say don't just go by checklist activity saying कि ये कर लिया ये कर लिया ये कर लिया तो ये हो जाएगा. Sometimes you may have to jump, and as I as I said, calling back that H1 visa was one of the turning points in my life. No one would, and my parents did not know about it. When they got to know, they started screaming at me and saying, "तू पागल हो गया क्या? मतलब अमेरिका जाने का ये छोड़ के तू you're thinking about this." But that's there. So sometimes decisions are important, and let me tell you, you need to take decisions based on information that you have today. AI can give you that insights information that opens up a lot of opportunities. Unlike in the good old days, I just went with my gut. I did my pros and cons analysis. Money never was a part of the conversation, otherwise probably I would have taken that as a path. But when we talk of failure, I would say I'll share one incident. One of the organizations that I worked for, we were doing a large scale transformation with HRMS. We were bringing in a new system. A lot of elements were, uh, I would say, moving in parallel, and it was very difficult to manage. कि ये फट गया तो ये problem होगा. We tried everything. Everything went well till the UAT. Everything that you can think of checklist के beyond भी हम लोग गए ऐसा ये वो. Everything worked fine. I was on leave that day. It was a Friday evening, and at around 5 o'clock, I get panic calls from my CHRO saying, "Brilliant, तू कहाँ पर है?" I said, "I'm out and shopping. I have taken a leave for a reason." He said, "नहीं, बहुत problem हो गया है. There has been a big goof up. The HRMS, when we put it live, it triggered off a mail which sent out some heavy amount of data to all employees." Now, that data point that was sent or supposed to be huge and heavy consisted of leave encashment details of every employee in the organization. And I think the CEO and CMD, when she did something, it triggered off a wrong email and
Oh,
it went to all the employees. But thankfully, because the file was huge, no one could download it. But that incident, Amit, I'll tell you, it made me feel so restless. I was about to get into a celebration party at that point of time, but my mind was here. I said something very important to myself. I said, see, this has happened. One is it is wrong. Good part is no one was able to see any data because the file was not downloaded. What could we do? So I went back, I put on my Jugadu technical hat and I said, okay, this is something which can be managed at the server end. So I asked the technical team to go to the server, delete those files so that it can open up. We locked the system. We said that we will not go ahead with it till we do more detailing. I got a lot of heat from all the stakeholders saying कि तुमने क्या test किया, and we showed them the test results, everything. He said, no, no, this is not acceptable. The team was completely demoralized because we put in everything, and this was not something which was in our hands. But what happened during that period is one of the team members who we were working with, he just walked, a very, very junior person. He was an associate at a 2-year-old experience kind of person. He just walked up to me and said, "Boss, अरे छोड़ो ना, क्या होगा, वापस करके देखते हैं." Just casually. right? What we call Gen Zs today, that's the Gen Z that time. He said, छोड़ो ना करके देखते हैं. And he said, हाँ यार, मतलब हो गया अभी क्या इसके ऊपर रो के क्या करना है? What's the point in crying over spilt milk? So that was the point where we realized that sometimes it's important to let go, as you mentioned in the past. If you keep holding on to that failure story continuously, it will not help. Slowly, after a week, we were able to fix all the bugs and work on that. But that incident made us realize that there will be points in your life where you have zero control on what's happening. But what's important is how you respond to it and how you take your team along. Because you need to understand, if you start panicking, your team panics, and the outcome is a ripple effect of complete chaos in the organization.
Very powerful example, Dr. Brilliant. But what I find very inspiring is also that during the time of catastrophe, you were able to think that how can this problem be solved,
So,
and going to the server level and the technician, and then getting the file deleted. And also, again, this is also that being able to think in that moment of uh,
stress, high stress.
stress and being on the feet. So very nice, very powerful, very good example. All right, so see, when we were talking about the young people on how they should spend time understanding business, having those conversations. So how should they manage? How should they manage the tasks on their plates? How should they manage their boss, their expectations, and then how should they also manage that, like you mentioned, that learning, sharpening the saw. So they have to learn by investing in themselves, learning about this. How should they go about it?
So one golden rule that I think we all can apply to ourselves is find at least 10 minutes of time in your life where you can learn something new. You will not learn a new concept in 10 minutes, but if you invest 10 minutes every day, over a period of time, you will learn. What I do personally, and this is now become a habit. During lunchtime, I go on to one of the online courses, just go through it. Maybe a half an hour course. I read for 10 minutes, go through it, take the assessments as well. And I have downloaded all the certificates of those programs that I've completed. Now, what it does is it takes your brain to a different level. It's your investment, the individual purpose to stay upgraded. For a fresher, what is critical to understand is expectations will always be high. You cannot just believe that, okay, मैं तो so and so college से आ गया हूँ तो I will get a royal treatment. No, that will get you a foot in the door. But when you're there, you need to perform. And before performing, my suggestion is have a conversation with your manager, a reporting manager, and if possible, try to find a mentor within the organization.
Very nice.
So one thing which we always forget, Amit, we were unlucky in that sense that we never had the kind of opportunities that the youngsters have today. You don't need a mentor from the organization. You can look for mentors outside. The idea is have a sounding board who can be your go-to every time you need help. And if you're able to do that, what happens is you will get some kind of a direction in which you move. And sometimes you may just want to ask, Amit, ये इस दर से जा रहा हूँ, ठीक है ना? You will just say, हाँ ठीक है जा, or you will say, सोच समझ के जाना, or you will say मत जा. But that input is critical. The youngsters today unfortunately come with the belief that everything the organization should give.
Correct.
Organization will not have that bandwidth. You need to start investing in finding a mentor for yourself. And I'm being, I'm pushing on this because having a mentor makes a big difference, and you will see how it can change your life. And once you have that right mentor, work closely with the mentor and have, I would say, if not more, a quarterly discussion with your manager to understand and assess your performance. There was a WhatsApp forward long ago where we read how a young boy goes to a telephone booth, puts a coin and calls up and says, "Hey, you know what? I can do gardening for you for uh, some money." The lady on the other side says, "No, my grandson does a great job." So it's like checking how you're performing. Sometimes these things look silly, but it's important, right? Unless you ask, you will not know. Sometimes managers are also a bit skeptical and scared. And I'll be honest here. They don't want to offend people. Today, It's not the good old days. Today, if you say something slightly with a raised voice, people find it offensive. They may then, end up in a different direction. So bosses are also very cautious. But if you have a heart-to-heart conversation on how am I doing, what's your expectation, and how can I reach there? Have these constant reviews. I feel that if you're able to put these two, three things in line, life would be much, much better than just going into an organization expecting that they will give you everything you need.
Very nice. So this is from a young professional's point of view. I'll come back to from a leader's point of view on how to handle Gen Z. But before, before that, because that's towards the latter part. But before
That
that, from a leader's point of view, we have discussed that staying hungry, doing meaningful work, do it yourself, sharpening the saw, relearning and learning, jugaad, and for quick and dirty work, and accountability and having fun with accountability. What
true.
letting go of fear of failure, try it to know that whether it will work or not. Anything else which you would like
So,
to share with a young professional?
so I would say, resilience is critical. I had mentioned about it just passing by. You need to be that kind of a wall that, is rock solid. ये दीवार टूटती क्यों नहीं है भैया वैसा वाला स्टोरी. There is an organizational pressure, there is an employee pressure. If you're able to build resilience and become a wall, I think success will be yours easily. Remember that it may take up to 10 years of persistent focus, resilient behavior, and of course patience to achieve that 1 minute of success. It's not overnight. It requires you to stay there. The biggest example that I talk about resilience is Manji, right? Dashrath Manji cut through that mountain, not for anyone else, but for the villagers. So you need to be like that built. Your build needs to be filled with resilience, and it needs to have that focus to say that kuch bhi ho jaye, I will move in this direction. You will be pushed back. There will be challenges that you will face. And yes, one thing which I've seen people not focus on, which the youngsters really come with an advantage today, is the art of storytelling.
Yes.
We all talk about numbers, we all talk about ये हो गया profitability, but कहानी अच्छी सुनाओ. It should be like मेरे पास आओ मेरे दोस्तों. People will want to come. Otherwise, he'll say ये रहा data. Right?
Correct.
बहुत फर्क पड़ जाता है. If you just give me a paper, I'll just push it on. But when you say मेरे पास आओ मेरे दोस्तों एक किस्सा सुनो, I am inquisitive. I want to know more. So become a very good storyteller. Don't worry about impressing people. Express yourself effectively and make sure that you understand why you're sharing that story. So these are two or three points which I would like to add to whatever you mentioned earlier.
Very nice. Very good point, Dr. Brilliant. So, see, resilience and handling fear of failure. Again, it boils down to self belief. Now, in our generation, there were no servants, there was no house help. So, I remember Artica canister getting on my cycle and with the fear that what if it falls down
False. True.
and get beaten up at home. So, taking those risks and so which instilled that sense of feeling of self belief that I'll be able to manage. In today's generation, life has become slightly cushy because we don't have the joint family structure and it's a nuclear family, parents are out, so they arrange those facilities. So, but to have that, remove that fear of failure and to have that resiliency, how do they grow their self belief? What can they do to grow their self belief?
See, most important part is to take that attempt, right? As Nike says, just do it. Often you get an opportunity. Many people say, "अरे नहीं हो पाएगा." अरे करके देखो यार. Worst, what is the worst that will happen? You will fail,
Correct.
right? It's okay, but you need to take that decision. And I think I had mentioned it somewhere. Taking decisions are critical.
Mhm.
Should I go left or should I go right? Sometimes you may not have the uh, luxury of having a mentor. What do? You trust your gut, you go to left. You may end up failing. For example, when I took that call, I had no one to look up to. Everyone I spoke to started telling me negative things. अरे तू इतना अच्छा खासा ये करके छोड़ दे. But I took that call. So for youngsters, Building self-belief requires you to take action and not focus on someone else to guide you.
Correct.
And what is critical is take small steps,
Very nice.
one step at a time. दुनिया एक रात में नहीं खड़ी हुई थी. I mean, while there are stories around it, but everything takes time. And one of the philosophies that we at Times Pro also believe in is small things make a big impact. So you start small, assess, नहीं हो रहा है, ठीक है, try something else. So that the fear of failure will become what we call as trial and error. So you get to know that, अच्छा ये नहीं चला, चलो इधर जाते हैं. So you're not investing too much. One of my bosses in the past had said that fail fast so that you don't burn more money. है ना, वो होता है ना कि फेल हुआ, बैठे रहे, अरे हो जाएगा कल परसों. यू नीड टू नो व्हेन टू लेट गो ऑफ सेइंग कि ये नहीं हो पा रहा है, तुमसे ना हो पाएगा भाई, वैसा काइंड ऑफ मोड आ गया तो छोड़ दो. बट यू नीड टू अंडरस्टैंड दैट फेलिंग फास्ट इज क्रिटिकल, and that's where you start building that self belief. The young boy who came up and told me, अरे सर हो जाएगा छोड़ दो, uh, he would have been what at that age around 23 24 years old. To think of that in such a stressful scenario, probably if I were in his place, I would have not had the courage to speak. But have that courage to speak when you think you have an idea or you have a solution or you have something which is important and can help, just speak up. Don't just restrict yourself because log kya kahenge, and that's the biggest fear which we have.
No, no, I'll see. You're not praising yourself. That young chap was able to come and say this to you because of the atmosphere you had created, Dr. Brilliant. The open door policy and
Right.
giving the freedom to people, which not everybody does. So, as a leader, that is also a very interesting leadership
Interesting
model.
point. True. And I think I was lucky that some of the bosses that I worked for were very open. As I said, I wrote that letter and he called me and said, "बोलो काम चाहिए ना, ठीक है दे देता हूँ." If he would have said, "अच्छा लेटर लिख रहा है तेरे को तो अभी मैं 10 दिन तक काम नहीं दूंगा," then that would have been a much worse situation for me.
This reminds me of that movie Jerry Maguire, where Tom Cruise he writes a letter to the management and he's screwed.
Yes, it happens, right? It can happen both ways.
Movie generally it's a good thing which happens. So I don't want to get that message to the viewers
No,
that
no, but वो वही है कि ना कि कौन कहता है कि आसमां में सुराख नहीं होता. एक पत्थर तो तबीयत से उछालो यार. मे बी इट विल नॉट हिट द स्काई बट इट विल गो हायर. तो विथ प्रैक्टिस यू विल मेक श्योर दैट इट रीचेस हायर.
very nice, very nice, very nice discussion, Dr. Brilliant. So, see a young professional, how should he or she plan his or her career? Next 2 years, I'll do this. After that, I'll do that. Or mentors will obviously help, like you have said. But there should be some basic plan that they should have. What should that basic plan be? To go into talent acquisition, to go into HRBP, to go how?
So again, Amit, one disclaimer I would say is many professionals who get into HR come in because they don't want to do sales.
Correct.
Okay, so I would say HR is nothing but sales.
Oh,
It's hardcore sales organization because I am pitching a career, I am pitching a job, I am pitching a compensation, I am pitching my company to you, which requires me to have all the skills. So for anyone who wants to build a career, I would say test waters across. When I moved into HR formally, the first role that I got was in talent acquisition. Why? Because they wanted someone who has an engineering background and understands IT so he or she can source candidate effectively. Now think about it. No one had thought उतने लेवल पे कोई सोचा ही नहीं था. एवरीवन यूज्ड टू से अरे रिक्रूटमेंट का काम है ना, naukri.com पे जाओ, सर्च मारो, जॉब निकालो, हो जाओ. But when I was able to hold conversations with candidates and I was able to make sure that I was getting good number of selection, I don't remember the percentages, but a fair number of selections, that made me realize that the experience of me as an engineer really helped in talent acquisition. Then I went into learning and development because learning and development is something which is the actual bridge builder. Saying कि ये gap है, ये मेरे पास बंदा है, इसको यहाँ से यहाँ कैसे लेके आओ. So that also helped me understand that not everything that you do as an organization in terms of learning and development will give you outcomes. You need to understand that there is probably a 20% success rate, but what's important is you align to what the objectives are and curate programs which are effective. And then I moved into being a business partner. So what happened was I understood the talent landscape. मैं जिस लोगों को लेके आया
Mhm.
उनको मैंने पहले सिखाया, फिर उनको मैनेज किया. So what happened was it became a bit of easy way to navigate within the HR domain. And that's where the growth cycle also happened. So from talent management, from talent acquisition to L&D to business partnering to talent management and then into full-fledged generic HR as head of HR. So the growth journey became easy. Never shy away from taking up any responsibility.
Mhm.
Today, there is an amazing field which even I am looking to scout talent in is HR analytics.
Mhm.
Right, HR analytics is one of
Correct.
the biggest aspect where we need people with that kind of a background. If you don't have analytics bent, it becomes very difficult. So what do? You need to think about effectively managing it. So somewhere the thing which we spoke about in the past is transforming the behaviors with metrics. So something again, what you mentioned, Kushalta also does is how do I bring that bridge? Not everyone has that mindset to analyze data effectively. So HR analytics is something which I would say everyone should have it as a skill. But if you want to start off, that's also a great place. Talent acquisition, no doubt gives you a sense of how difficult it is to get people to work for you. And that gives you a sense of pride when people join, and then you understand the nuances. So don't shy away from it, and don't think of career as a step by step process. Your career can move from anywhere to anywhere. It
Correct.
all depends on the kind of opportunities you get. Not everyone may be as lucky as I was because the organization gave me that role movement. Every year they would shuffle the role profiles.
Mhm.
But if you feel that you want to do something, have conversations with your boss, even if you don't have a mentor. But tell your boss, tell your manager, I have an interest in this. Can I take up a small project? Work on a project mode. Why not?
Very
And
nice.
if you find success, you can then formally ask for it. Many organizations have IJPs, internal job postings, so that people can move across the organization. But what stops you from taking it up? Take up something which you have never done. And again, I go back to what my boss used to say. If you keep doing the same things, you will get the same results. So if you want to do something different out of the box, take up something which you feel even if your plate is full. Maybe you can think of having one more small ball of ice cream and treat that as an ice cream and start enjoying it. Have fun. Your career will go at places that you probably not even imagined.
Correct. Very nice. So, like you said, that you get a process, get a project. Like you were earlier mentioning that you have to be pushy, invite yourself in the meeting. So you have to
Yes.
have that desire to take those stretch targets, which will help you. So, the sense I gather is, Dr. Brilliant, is that rather than planning in your career, it's the soft skills, taking up stretch targets, avoiding fear of failure. All those things are equally important.
Yes, it's not exactly 50-50, but it is a larger portion, I would say.
Oh,
See, functional elements, कोई भी सीख के आ सकता है. See, I'll be honest, we've seen how people can clear exams by just remembering answers. But that's not what this is about. This is about navigating an ecosystem which is so dynamic that you really don't know what
correct,
will happen in the next second.
correct,
You need to understand that people come with different behaviors. You need to understand that a personal life of a person can impact the way they behave at work and how they can react sometimes. So if you're able to manage the software elements, you need to understand that sometimes having conversations which are difficult conversations, it's crucial. We tend to say जाने दे यार छोड़ कौन मगजमारी करेगा. No, you need to cut it down, otherwise it will have an impact on you. Get into the mode of knowing things rather than just saying that I know it all. There may be things which you don't know. As I said, HR analytics, while I understand some of it, I still want to look for a subject matter expert. We should be okay to say I don't know.
correct. That
And
humility is very powerful.
yes, my boss Mukul, he once took me to a board meeting and he said, तेरे को presentation करना है. मैंने बोला अरे बॉस लेकिन मैं कैसे करूंगा? He said मुझे नहीं पता, मैंने तेरे को हायर किया है, मैं तेरे पे डिपेंडेंट हूँ. That's the kind of trust that is required, right? Because people believe in you because you've been able to deliver it in the past. So if you able to showcase outcomes consistently, nothing will stop you. But make sure that you're there when there is a need.
Very nice, very powerful. So, see, coming back to it, what you said, Dr. Brilliant, that mentors, why will they trust you? Like your boss trusted you. So, it's those softer skills, your
Softer
discipline,
skills.
dedication, which will impress the people, your
True.
stakeholders, your seniors, that you're good enough, you can be trusted.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Very powerful. So, now, let's say 2, 3 years, 5 years, now a person has reached the middle level. So, then what are the important things that he or she needs to focus on?
So biggest challenge for us, especially in the India and small companies, is people tend to reach a level of saturation
Hmm.
क्योंकि कुछ नया करने को नहीं है.
Correct.
So that's where I would ask them to start exploring a small foot into the business.
Oh, very nice.
Maybe take up one element of business. In this organization at TimesPro, I've been able to support some additional business functions like learner operations. I was managing quality for some time. I was managing what is it called? Learner experience. Right now, these are direct business
Are you saying
impacting
that
functions.
apart from your HR responsibilities, you had taken additional pieces of business?
Yes.
Very nice.
So that gave me a newer challenge to look at. While
Okay.
there was this people element, but this is also business impacting, right? Now, if learners are upset, my business impact is high. Revenue पे impact आ जाएगा, bottom line पे आ जाएगा. So how do I make sure that the learner journey is effective? How do I create processes? So what happened in that process is I started getting into the business. So if you reach to that level of saturation, start looking for opportunities within the organization
Very
to
good.
support business, enable something where it's at zero cost, right? I can't remember the name of the organization who has a fixed percentage of your time that you can delegate to projects.
Google.
Google, probably. So have that as a part of your time management schedule. Let's say you have 8 hours of work, you will say half an hour I'll invest in one project every day
Hmm.
or 1 hour. Work it out, but make sure that your core of HR or function that you're dealing in is not compromised. Because if you compromise on that, then nothing will work.
Obviously. But this is so powerful because business, when you're taking up additional tasks apart from HR, business related tasks, the business head is also going to be so impressed and is going to invite you
Yes.
all the more for the meetings and listen to your advice.
Yeah, because they understand that I also know business. I also talk the language of the business. And
Correct.
my questioning changes, right? Instead of just asking this, my question is why and what is the impact on the business? Instead of saying, कि इसको just ये करो. So I'll ask these three questions and they know that I mean business.
Very nice, very powerful. And this is what is happening. So changing the way HR was looked at 30 years, 25 years back when we started maybe, and now it is becoming more and more a strategic function.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Very nice. So coming back to see, we have already we are almost close to. I had so many questions which I have already written down, but we are already close to the end point because we have to stick to the time limit. But I'll try to finish it fast. So
Sure.
senior level. What about people at the senior level? What do they need to look at?
See, at a senior level, unfortunately, unlike the youngsters and the middle stage people, the opportunity and the ability for them to reach out is limited. So that is where I would say probably, create a kind of a peer circle where you can actually have conversations. And I've been working with a few of my friends. It's an informal circle. What we do is we catch up once in a while, we share some grievances, we say यार HR के लिए HR कौन है? Once you reach there, and trust me when I say this, it's lonely at the top. When you reach at the top, you can't tell your CEO because there's a probability that उनके साथ का कुछ problem है. You can't tell your juniors because they will start feeling अरे इसको उनसे problem है तो हम कैसे काम करेंगे. So that is where you need to start creating communities or circles which can really help you come together and discuss. It will not solve problems for you, but the best part about these circles and the communities I have faced is it gives you a medium to vent out. Once you have vented it out, there's a lot of clarity that comes in. I remember having had one of the conversations where I was at a difficult phase with one of the business leaders. So I I was bottling up, and it was visible in my behavior. I was getting stressed. I would not look happy. I stopped cracking jokes. And then when the circle happened, I just put it out in the front. And there were at least two or three ideas that came up.
Very nice.
From that idea, I said, okay, chalo, ये एक आध try करके देख लेते हैं. Whether it worked or not was different, but at least it gave me an outlet to say, chalo yaar, this is a forum which is a trusted circle where I can talk about it. So I think at that level, at a senior leadership level, you need to start looking at that. And again, it is up to you to decide whether solutions will work or not. But the forum will give you an option to share, discuss, and probably get more insights because you're always operating in this mode. Once you open up, there's a plethora of things that you can probably work on.
Very powerful again, Dr. Brilliant, because it re-energizes you also, and
Restarts the entire process of thinking for you.
very nice. All right. So coming back to the question, which we said we'll discuss later on, Gen Z, how to handle Gen Z?
So I think, to some extent, we've created a hype saying that Gen Z is not manageable. But if I look back, as I said, the young chap, Rilo, he was also a Gen Z when I was there. So what Gen Z means is people with different expectations coming to the workforce. What you've been doing all through may be the right thing till today.
Correct.
There is a possibility that because the generation has changed, their way of thinking is different. They are a digital native. They are born into digital transformation, right? The day they were born, probably they were looking at the mobile SMS sending कि
Yes.
यार मैं आ गया हूँ धरती पे. Now, with that kind of digital adaptation rate that comes in, we need to know that they are smart.
Correct.
I mean, they have access and they will not take nonsense. My golden rule for managing this is respect.
Very nice.
Respect them for what they bring. Have conversations. If you start by admonishing them, by saying, अरे तुझे नहीं पता, मैं यहाँ पे 10 साल से हूँ, मैं यहाँ पे 20 साल से हूँ. The moment you start that, you start cutting them off, and then their behavior also changes. Then they start reacting instead of responding. And if you want to see the beauty of these, respect them when they start talking, say, हाँ बताओ क्या है, and then work with them towards solutions. Don't try to cut them off and rub them off in the wrong way. It's not about who's right or wrong. It's about an opinion. And sometimes they may not have an opinion. That is also okay. You cannot force. You can say that this is what it is. Once you come to the table and have that conversation, you say, these are the three options. How do you think we should proceed? When you put the question to them, solutions will automatically come. So I remember where we reached a deadlock with one of the youngsters some point. The best thing that we did is there are three solutions and we knew which solution we wanted. So we said, why not flip the question? We asked him, तुम बताओ, अगर तुम मेरी जगह होते तो तुम क्या करते? So when that happened, we could see the transformation because that person felt respected, saying कि ये मेरे से पूछ रहा है. And then we said, okay, तुमने ये बताया, but these are the problems. From an organization perspective, it impacts. So do you think this will work? And then दिमाग की बत्ती जल गई. And then he said, yeah, this is a good one. Let's look at this. So sometimes giving them that space helps, but respect is non-negotiable. Any age, any generation, respect them for what they bring to the table.
Very nice. And having that patience,
Be patient. Be patient.
that patience to ask the question in a different way and let the answers come. And again, I again come back to where the youngster at that stressful situation where the HRMS thing happened, he got the guts to say this because you had created that environment,
Open environment. True.
that open environment. So that is itself so powerful. All right. So we spoke about AI also, Dr. Brilliant. So
Yes.
how can a youngster use AI, or what should he or she do? Take up courses. How to use AI as a productivity tool?
So I think I would not recommend a course. I would say learn anything you want to. Don't worry about a stamp of a certificate to say AI ka certification chahiye. What is AI is nothing but a tool.
Correct.
Remember that. Today, uh, if I go back to the earlier days, calculator आया job चला जाएगा, computer आया job चला जाएगा, कितने सारी चीज आए job चला जाएगा. Nothing happened.
Correct.
And 2023 chat GPT आया, बोला अब तो पक्का जॉब चला जाएगा। फिर डीप सीक आया, जॉब चला जाएगा। क्लॉड आ गया, जॉब चला जाएगा। So we keep fearing a lot instead of working with AI. So AI is nothing but a magical tool that has been given to you, this new generation, where you have free accessibility to make the best of what you know. Today, I don't Google. Today, I go to a
Correct.
generative AI and ask because it gives me intelligent responses. Otherwise, मुझे मैंने सर्च मारा तो मेरे को 1235th पेज पे मेरा सॉल्यूशन मिलेगा. AI compresses that time. So I would say learn and master AI, but stay human. AI will give you 10 things, but you need to have that human emotion and that connect to take a call on what you need to take up, right? And the best example I can share is AI threw up a data insight saying that, this person has been performing poorly for the last 3 months. And we said, Arey baapre, ye to one of the top performers. And when we looked at data point, we realized that the person actually started dipping from what it was year on year to suddenly to one third of what it was. And then we started asking questions. When we started engaging, we realized that the person was going through a personal crisis.
Oh,
If I had relied only on AI, probably the decision would have been different.
correct.
But because there was this human element of having that conversation, we made sure that we didn't stick to AI. So AI will give you at times rubbish.
Correct.
And in the good old days, it was GIGO, good in, good out. But today, the problem is so many people feed so much into AI that I say good in, gober out. So, so you have to be very, very sharp, sharper than AI to understand what is hallucination and what is reality. So have that sense. Don't get carried away by just trying to build certifications, but understand how do you use generative AI effectively. So personally, I use a lot of generative AI for image creation. Earlier, what I used to do for my post is I would search on Google, go to pages and find the image and then modify. It would take me a lot of time. Today, I just put a prompt saying this is what I am looking for. It gives me a skeleton structure. उसको फिर मैं fine tune कर सकता हूँ. It compresses that 9 hours of effort to about 10 minutes of effort.
Very nice. Very nice. So very powerful, Dr. Brilliant. So it has been more than an hour. Actually, more than an hour. We have exceeded by a few minutes. So there are so many things which we can talk about. It has been a pleasure to talk to you, but we have to stay within the time limits, Dr. Brilliant. So
Absolutely.
thank you so much. Thanks for giving us time.
My pleasure, Amit. Thank you so much for having me over. Thank you, Kushalta.